How's it going, ladies and bruises? I'm Bobby Sixkilla and welcome back to Ever 17. We are standing outside the Himmel door, ready to make a move into the secret research facility. Whether we'll actually get it or not, who knows. Hopefully I haven't messed this run up, but let's carry on, shall we? We must be getting very close to an ending here. Here we are. We all stopped in front of the door. I briefly put Coco down and I leaned her up against the wall. The kid went up to Coco and leaned her his shoulder. Himmel. The door that wouldn't open. Sir, I'm just asking to make sure. What? What does Himmel mean? I mean sky in German. Or heaven. Heaven, huh? I sure had given it an ironic name. So the question was, how in the world are we going to open that door? It's ironic considering it's so far down here in the bowels of hell. Ask Sora, I suppose, if we want Sora to be our friend. Can you tell me what the access code is to the electronic lock? I asked Sora again. It is unknown to me. It was only given to the IBF researchers and exclusive staff. Even a hint would help. I will try to find out what it is. As soon as she said this, a transparent keyboard and console appeared in front of her. Accessing the security block for the MMIH's system, bypassing Himmel's protection key. The buttons on the electronic lock start to flash. Le MMIH, please listen to me. Please don't fight me. Sora was tapping furiously on the keyboard, battling with the system that was locking the door. It looked to me almost like as if the sparks were flying in the air. Sora's hands flew across the virtual keyboard. Unfazed, he continued to type. Jesus. Sparks violently scattered out one after another. Ow! Her RSD image wavered and the virtual keyboard disappeared. Sora, are you okay? I'm sorry, I was denied access. Her image continued to flicker for a while. The next thing to try was... ask Tsugumi? Tsugumi, do you think there's a way to open it up? What are you talking about, Takeshi? I'm racking my brains thinking about the same thing. Oh, yeah, right. After thinking for a bit, Tsugumi asked Sora a question. Do you know what kind of process this door goes through when it opens? Okay, let me see. After the correct keys are input, a lever embedded into the hatch should start to raise. As the lever turns, the lock on the door is released. However, the lever is nothing more than an ornament now. It is turned automatically using electricity, and the motor is usually locked in place. Yeah, I suppose they designed it so that you couldn't open it up during an emergency on purpose. In that case, she pulled out a flathead screwdriver. Where'd she get that from? If we can get that lever off, maybe we can open this up manually. She began to insert the tip of the screwdriver into the gap between the door's panel lines, and... Tsugumi jammed the screwdriver in with all her might. She tried to dig out the lever buried in the hatch by force. The alloy screwdriver crushed like a piece of candy. The lever budged slightly toward the surface of the door. However, the screwdriver bent into two equal parts from its handle, and the lever snapped back into place. There's nothing I can do. Tsugumi threw the bent screwdriver on the floor. Damn, what are we gonna do? Coco was being supported by the kid. She couldn't stand by herself. She soon was hunched over on the floor. I tried pulling her up again, but her face quickly drained of all colour. This is bad. If we don't get in there quickly... Offnen sie die Tür von Himmel? Suddenly a voice that I hadn't heard before sounded from the corridor. What's it saying? Someone is trying to access Le MMIH's system. Sora flashed open her eyes and shouted. From inside the room. From a terminal inside Himmel. What? The access indicator light for the electronic lock turned green. The hatch's lever raised and turned automatically. The door opened suddenly. Who the hell could be inside unless it's Sarah, right? Stagnant air poured out of the room. For some reason, the humidity felt like it was lower than outside. The air conditioning was humming quietly. It was white. It was pure white inside. The whiteness of the wall and floor was emphasized by the brightness of the lighting, and seemed to leap out at us. Himmel? It didn't necessarily seem like a mistake to have named the room Heaven. There were nameplates on the machines with Himmel written on them. It seemed we were in the computer control room. Hey, there's someone here. Did he open up the door just now? There was a single person in the room. He was a man who appeared to be in his 40s, dressed in a white lab coat, and blood was coming out of his mouth and he had passed out at the console. Hey mister, are you alright? The man didn't reply to me, he just lay there motionless. Who is this guy? Sora, do you have any idea who this is? No, I am unable to verify his ID. But judging from the way he's dressed, it would be safe to assume he's a researcher at the IBF facility. I put my hands on his shoulder and raised him into a sitting position. I looked over at his white clothing to see if he had any name tags, or other way to determine his name. But he didn't have an ID card, or a nameplate to check. Hey, you one of the staff from the research facility? Yeah, that's right. Breathing faintly, the researcher replied. He seemed to be unable to open his eyes and searched for me by my voice. Doesn't seem like you're here to rescue me. He grabbed onto me with shaking hands. They were covered in blood. So, there were still people in Lamu, and it's been 6 days since. What a surprise. Blood trickled from his mouth and he smiled wryly. Hey, don't strain yourself. You don't have to talk. I'm so sorry, it's all our fault. What happened? Did something happen down here? But why all this? After that he was silent. Hey, hang in there. I shook his shoulders, but he didn't reply. Takeshi, cut it out, you're shaking him too hard. He's unconscious, just leave him alone for now. Okay. Well, we'll have to bring him with us. I wonder what's going on. Wait, more importantly, we've got to hurry. I don't have a clue what's going on, but I can't worry about that now. We've got to get Coco to IBF right away. You, who had been waiting at the entrance to Himmel, went inside with Pee-Pee. The kid followed behind carrying Coco. The door had an electronic lock on it, so we left it open. Everyone, at the far end of the room is another room. Can you see it? Yeah? Yes, I see it. We all nodded. There was a room on the other side of the glass in front of us. That is the compression chamber for IBF. Sora straightened up and explained the situation without emotion. Judging from my incomplete data, IBF is enclosed in higher pressure gas than Lamu. The IBF area is set to what is known as saturated diving specifications. This type of area is probably more suitable for research with bacteria. The atmospheric pressure of IBF is actually at 12.5 atmospheres. I want all of you to enter that room. And after you spend about an hour in the compression chamber, you'll take the access elevator down to IBF. And I should tell you that this is a precaution, but you will not be able to retrace our steps easily from this point on. Please give this due consideration. We can't go back. We've got to make a decision. Alright, we're going. I looked at everyone. You, the kids, Tsugumi, Sora, and Pee-Pee all nodded. The kid and you held the unconscious Coco between them. Tsugumi and I picked up the researcher and Pee-Pee took the rear. We have to go right away because she's dying. Everyone lined up at the transparent sliding door on the far side of the room. Sora used the control panel on the terminal to open it up. All of us entered the room together. A single panel of reinforced glass lay in between the control room and the compression chamber. More precisely, a chamber was set in the middle of the room, had been constructed there. We brought Coco and the researcher into the room first and sat them down on chairs. Both of them, their breathing was ragged, and they looked in pain. Their faces were extremely pale and sickly. We need to hurry. I hate to waste an hour here. You, the kids, Tsugumi and Pee-Pee all stood in the open space available. With everyone in there, it was fairly crowded. Once the compression is completed, the door on the far side should open and you can enter the elevator. For some reason, Sora didn't enter the room, but spoke to us from in front of the entrance. I will expedite the compression process. It may be a little uncomfortable, but please bear with it. In saying this, Sora went to close the door. Sora, what's wrong? You aren't coming with us? She's not allowed down here. She hasn't got permission, right? No, Come on, let's get started. What are you waiting for? I casually reached out towards Sora. I knew I couldn't grab her, but I did anyway. However, as soon as I tried to touch her, sparks flew into the air. It felt as though a shock had gone through me. A transparent wall suddenly appeared in front of the door. There was a red wall of flame. What? Alarmed, I drew back my hand and the door closed. Sora? Sora, what was... From this point on, this is the jurisdiction from a different computer system. I heard Sora's voice talking to us calmly over the speaker of the compression chamber's intercom. I am but a single part of the MMIH system, therefore I am unable to go to IBF. I do not have the authority to access the area. I am sorry, but I'll have to see you off. She already told us that. The wall of fire had vanished. We were in the compression chamber, shut off from the rest of the world. The sound of pumping gas, which was slowly raising the air pressure, could be heard throughout the chamber. Hey everyone, take out your voice converters. They get in the way when you're adjusting to the pressure. Everyone did as I said and removed their voice alternators. I took out Coco's myself. I checked the researcher, but he didn't seem he was wearing any. After that, hardly anyone said a word. We were all waiting for the time to pass. Sora could be seen outside the chamber's window. She didn't move, only stood and watched us. And then... the lock from the door on the far side of the chamber clicked and released. I felt a subtle change in pressure and the lift down to IBF opened. We all filed into it one by one. Everyone, take care. We could hear her voice from the speaker on the other side of the room, but we couldn't see her. I wondered if I would ever see her up close again. Cocking my head to one side, I thrust the voice alternators back in my ear. Everyone got aboard the lift. As soon as the doors closed, the elevator started sliding down. Depth 210 feet. Depth 240 feet. 270 feet. What could be below heaven? More heaven or... depth 357 feet. Hell, perhaps? The door to the elevator opened. The passage extended in two directions from the elevator room. I went in one of these. Everything was totally dark, and I could hardly tell where I was headed. Fearfully, I took a step forward. And suddenly, as if someone had noticed our arrival, the lights went on in the room. Is someone there? I think they just turned on by themselves. The sensors reacted, and the computer activated the lights. I'm not sure, but it's possible. It seemed there was a pool where a small submarine could dock. The pool was a two-layer structure, but there was no sign that seawater would flow in. It felt a little hot in there, but it seemed as though the air conditioning was still working properly. Perhaps the place was even more comfortable than the flooded Drite stock, but there was no sign of anyone. Anyway, let's get to where we have to go. We opened a watertight door at the other side of the room and continued deeper into the installation. A passageway the same size as Lemu's emergency corridors, no, maybe even smaller, led off into the distance. For some reason the whole place seemed colder, less alive than the structure above. As we continued down the corridor, lights were going automatically, a few feet in front of us. Well, it certainly seems computer controlled. As we continued moving, the lights followed us, lighting up only the areas around us. The corridor branched off in a few directions, but all of them ended at watertight doors that were closed. I wonder if IBF had flooded except for one part. Anyway, the number of areas that we could enter was limited. Luckily, we found the examination room right away. I quickly turned the handle and opened the door. You and the kid laid Coco down on a nearby table. Tsugumi and I put the researcher down in a chair slowly. There were a few ordinary beds in the examination room, and the same kind of LMRI that we'd found in Lemu's infirmary. There were numerous medical instruments that looked like things you might only see in a science fiction movie. I wonder what in the world they were for. I had no idea. Hey you, where's that high pressure oxygen thing that Sora was talking about? How should I know? Tsugumi, what should we do? Well, we'll have to look for it. None of us knows a thing about this place. Wait. The researcher coughed as he spoke. Hey, don't move, are you okay? I've been better, but at least I'm alive. With his eyes closed, he raised his hands weakly in response. This smell. This is IBF? So I'm back where I started. So you were working here? Well then, there's something I want to ask you. We're looking for something called a high pressure oxygen treatment device. We've come as far as the examination room, but we don't have a clue what to look for. Can you help us? Please. Oxygen treatment? Yeah, you're looking for the pods. There should be some alloy capsules with a mat set inside of them. They look like a bunch of cylinders stuck to a pillar. You see them? Yeah, they're right in front of me. That's them. Hang in there. We found them. So don't waste your energy talking anymore, okay? New blood appeared on the researcher's closed hand as he wiped his mouth. Just take a look at the manual. They should be easy to operate. Okay, I gotcha. The strength left the researcher's hand. Just before he collapsed, I grabbed onto his shoulder to support his body. Let's put him in a pod. And Coco too. Yeah. Tsugumi and I got on either side of the researcher and supported him. We brought him over to where the 3 pods were. When I pressed the button on the side of one, its hatch opened. I put him down gently inside. When I pressed the button again, the capsule pod closed again silently. The kid and you laid Coco down on another pod. The hatch to the pod closed soon after. Did you find the manual? Yeah, this is the control panel. You started operating a terminal a short distance away. High pressure oxygen treatment set. The tubes on the monitors attached to the tubes. The screens on the monitors attached to the tubes flickered, and both of the pods seemed to be functioning normally. That should do it. Okay. The condition of the people inside the pod was monitored and appeared on the control panel. Blood pressure, heart rate, respiration rate. Their expressions on their faces were even visible. I watched them for a few minutes. Coco and the researcher, whose name we didn't know. It was a slow process, but they both seemed to be gradually returning to normal. I'm so relieved. Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, looks like we made it in time. Woof. We let out a collective sigh of relief. It seemed as if we escaped the worst, for the moment. Well, we didn't have time to hang around, you know? We didn't know if the situation here at IBF was any different than Lemieux. There might even be other survivors or a way out, even communications. We could possibly even find information about TB. It was best to search as much as time would allow. Everyone agreed, so Tsugumi, the kid, and I went looking around IBF. You had the most medical knowledge, so she stayed in the examination room with Pee-Pee to look after Coco and the researcher. Because we were so unfamiliar with the area, the three of us set out together to look around. We walked around all around IBF, but since there was only a few places, there wasn't much to see. Almost all of the corridors had been blocked off. There were many doors that didn't open. When I tried forcing one of the doors, a terrible smell started pouring out, so I hurriedly closed it again. From what I'd seen during the brief moment the door was open, a few researchers covered in blood had died clawing at their throats. I didn't really want to think about what happened there. It wasn't hard to imagine that the situation had been the same or worse than what had happened at Lemieux. Another room was empty of people and there were a few computer terminals there. Operating the terminals, we were able to scan through some of the information left there. There was some information about TF Blau. Name, TF Blau. Symptoms: fever, chills, headache, aching muscles, loss of appetite, vomiting, diarrhea, stomach pains, etc. As it progresses, the patient begins to hemorrhage from the mouth, gums, conjunctiva, nasal cavity, the skin, as well as the alimentary canal, and has high probability of dying. Death rate after contracting the disease over 85%. Symptoms first appear similar to that of a common cold, and while they may temporarily improve, the patient's condition will again rapidly deteriorate, resulting in hemorrhaging. Incubation period normally 2 to 7 days. After that point, all the data was corrupted and it was not clear what else was written. Other than that, we came across some interesting information by accident. In the corner of a business log, IBF visitor registry, Coco Yagami. Coco's name had been listed. Looking further into the file was what seemed to be a personal memo written by somebody. I get to see my daughter for the first time in a while. Her school is on vacation, so she has a 10-day break. I've been trapped for so long in this tin can doing virus research that I'm jealous. That aside, when I told her that special permission had been granted for her to come down and see IBF, she sent me a happy reply saying she would. We've exchanged mail every once in a while, but I wonder how long it's been since we've actually seen each other. I'll just be happy if she hasn't forgotten what I look like. T.Y. T.Y. I thought they were probably the initials of Mr. Yagami, Coco's dad. Which meant that Coco had been to IBF once before, May 1st, to meet her father. We didn't find any other survivors in IBF. The kids, Tsugumi and I, all went back to the examination room. You, how are they doing? Yeah, looks like they're doing okay for now. You looked tired as she sat down and faced the pod's control panel. I looked at the monitor showing vital signs. Blood pressure, heart rate, respiration rate. They all seem to have stabilized for the moment. Oh yeah, Takeshi. I checked the medical database on this terminal earlier, but I hesitantly asked you. Yeah, did you find something? Yeah. It looks as if they still haven't found any definite way to treat the TF Blau virus, although the symptoms can be temporarily treated by injecting that orange serum. Otherwise, the only option is to hope for the small chance that it will clear up by itself. Oh. That sucks. Huh? What do you mean? You had trouble finding the words, so Tsugumi took over for her. Well, basically, if Coco is going to heal, her immune system is going to have to work a little harder. We brought her to the treatment pod. All we can do now is hope. Yeah, that's all we can do. No. Coco isn't going to get better? The kid looked like he was about to cry. Nobody said that. Whether she gets better or not is up to Coco's will to live. The kid walked up next to the capsule pod. Coco? Coco? He latched firmly onto the pod as though he would embrace it and started to cry. We still don't know how much this pod is going to help Coco. Yu murmured softly as she read the life signs on the monitor. It seems this pod can also do laser disinfection, as well as simple surgery, in addition to the oxygen treatment, and depending on how you use it, even cryogenic suspension. Suspension? What's that, you? I'm not sure, it was just in the manual. You mean freeze them so that they don't age or die? We don't really know how it's going to happen to us. All we can do is have faith and wait. A sharp alarm sounded from the control panel monitor. Not knowing what it was, we all looked at the monitor at once. The kid ran over to where we were. Ah! The agonized expression came over the face of the researcher. He thrashed and contorted inside of the cramped capsule. Hey mister! The researcher coughed violently and clawed at his throat. His hand and the area around his mouth was stained red. Oh shit, he's dying. The colour quickly drained from his skin. That's how his friends died in the other room. His breathing became shallow and he groaned in a low voice. No, I can't believe his condition would change like this. Hey mister, stop grabbing at your throat like that. You'll crush it. He slowly lowered his hands, which he'd been thrashing at his throat with. Hey mister, you alright? No, this is as far as I make it. The researcher was barely breathing. He was trying to breathe. He let out a gasp, but wasn't able to bring in air. So this is my reward. You pored over the manual and desperately searched the control panel, but there was nothing she could do. There was no way for her to keep him alive. She pounded on the manual, then placed both elbows on the panel and covered her face with her hands. She burst into tears. Tsugumi and the kid gazed at the monitor with strained expressions. The researcher's vital signs were getting weaker. My daughter... Oh, Coco was his daughter? Oh, that's even worse. Daughter, take care of her. He looked as though he was smiling, and his eyes closed. He would never move again. The life readings from the capsule pod went blank, and an electronic alarm sounded what seemed like forever. We couldn't save him. We didn't have the power to save that man, whose name we didn't even know. Something Yagami? I reached out my hand and turned off the alarm on the panel. How is Coco? Normal, you replied in a voice filled with tears. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong for the moment. Okay, thanks. We'll have to make sure he gets a proper burial. Yeah. Everyone was motionless for a while. Proof of how serious the situation was lay right before our eyes. But time rolled ever forward. We didn't have any more room to play around. Dragging my legs, which seemed suddenly very heavy, I went to check all the areas in IBF once again. We had to find a way out as soon as possible. After searching again, the only thing we realized was that all the escape pods were gone. The researchers had probably used them to get out. There was no deep water diving gear, no oxygen tanks, meaning all routes of escape had been cut off. We were quickly approaching the earliest estimated time for Lemu's implosion. It was almost May 6th, 4:30 PM. Does that affect down here as well? Can't we just lock this part off of? I guess not. We finished making our rounds. The kid and Tsugumi went back to the examination room where Coco was. Trading places, you left the room and Tsugumi took her place at the console, watching her vital signs. You and I talked in the corridor about what course of action we should take. Looks like we don't have any options. Yeah. So, what do you want to do? I'm thinking about it. Really? You smiled slightly. Takeshi, I know you're always the same. What's that supposed to mean? You never know when to quit. Nah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it in a bad way. You always try to be positive. I just have to admire that. I mean it. Really? You think so? I wouldn't say I was positive, as I probably just don't notice the really dangerous things. There you go again, joking around. You sure you're not doing it on purpose? You puffed up a little. Nah, not at all. I'm too dumb for that. And because I'm not so smart, I've got to think real hard about everything. But you know what? I think we're going to be okay. I mean, we got this far, didn't we? You laughed in response to my earnest reply. Yeah, I'm sure we'll be fine. Sure, it's going to be alright. A sound roared in the distance. It was probably being transmitted through the water to IBF where we were. Was it the sound of the thermal vents? Wonder if Lemu was still hanging in there. Although the situation we were in didn't look great, there were still various options available to us. Hey you, it's about that old guy, but the researcher. In the end we couldn't save him. Yeah, but I was thinking, why was he the only one left here? Everyone else got out earlier, right? Well, besides those guys that didn't make it. Yeah, I wonder. I don't know, but I'm sure some kind of circumstance kept him from escaping. And circumstances that kept him alive. Circumstances? Before he died and everyone was off searching, I had the chance to talk with him some. I tried to get him to stop, because he seemed like he was suffering, but he said talking to me made him feel better, so... I see. Well, what did he talk about? He got TB and wandered around IBF half dead. But he was worried about Lemu the whole time. Before coming to IBF, he said he'd been involved with the project to develop Lemu's systems. He was one of the staff that engineered Lemu's management software, meaning that Himmel, MMIH, and Sora, everything he left behind, is here in Lemu. For a programmer, the system here at Lemu was like his own child, meaning he was worried about his children? Yeah, that must have been it. Worrying about his children is what helped him live a while longer. Leaning against the wall, he looked as waves calmly lapped in the pool. Oh yeah, there was one other thing I heard from him that I was able to check up on. I wasn't sure about it when I found it on the terminal in the security office. What's that? Well, I'd partially bypassed MMIH's security, and that's when I found it. So what is it already? Sora's location. Sora is... The Sora that we know isn't in Incel Null. Huh? We know that the MMIH Central Processing Unit, the main supercomputer, is on the floating island. It seems that everything that happens here on Lemu is saved in Lemu's memory storage. What? I mean, can you tell me that in a simple language? That means when Lemu gets destroyed, we lose the Sora that we know. So that someone, even dumb like me, can understand? Okay. Lieblich Pharmaceutical keeps an original system program for Sora Akinagasaki. So even when they lose a copy here at Lemu, it won't hurt them at all. So basically it is possible to make many different versions of the Sora system. Even the Sora here might just be a copy. More than one Sora? Multiple copies, clones, present everywhere? That's what she meant? But think about it. Sora is Sora, right? There's only one Sora that we know, right? So what's the only thing that separates the Sora we know from the other Soras? Memory. The memories that she's made. Separates. Differences. Truth? Sora and the imposter. Ah! Do you get it, Takeshi? Memory. The only thing that we and the Sora here share is memory. That's it. Really. Even if Sora was everywhere, there was only one Sora Akinagasaki that I knew. Meaning, Sora's memory is here at Lemu. Sora? Himmel? So then that means Sora's mind and spirit are here in Himmel. I couldn't hold back. You gave me a nod when I asked this question. But if Drite's stock starts flooding, yeah, the Sora that we know is gone forever. I kicked a dirty old bottle that was at my feet. It landed in a pool and slowly sunk. We went back to the corridor. Takeshi, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to confuse you earlier. Saying that Sora might be an Incel Null. Don't worry about it. We know where she is now. Yeah. Even if we're able to get out of Lemu safely, the Sora up at Incel Null wouldn't be the Sora that we knew. She'd have the same thought processes and look the same, but it would be a different Sora. That Sora wouldn't be the one who loved flower beds and who had made it rain. It wouldn't be the Sora that looked at me from the other side of the glass window. The Sora who told a hopeless guy like me that she loved me. The only place she existed was here. Hey Takeshi, why was I created? What is the purpose of my being alive? Huh? I felt strange and stopped suddenly. I looked up. Takeshi, what's wrong? You followed my gaze to the ceiling. There was nothing there. She returned her gaze to me. I'm not really sure, but for some reason it's hard to breathe all of a sudden. Takeshi? Your nose is bleeding. You've got a nosebleed. Huh? I quickly put my hand to my nose. My upper lip was wet with something. Hey, are you okay? You looked worriedly at my face. Fine, I'm fine. I looked up and wiped under my nose as I replied. I wasn't thinking anything sexual, absolutely, positively. I don't know if I should believe you. As if, not at a time like this. My nose wouldn't stop bleeding. Huh? It looks pretty bad. Look, I told you, right? I really wasn't thinking anything perverted, okay? Huh? What? Come on, what? You started shaking my shoulder. Whatchu? I let out a huge sneeze. Blood flew, not only from my nose, but also from my mouth in large amounts. It splattered all over the floor and up the wall. Whoa. I was suddenly assaulted by dizziness. The wheel felt like it was spinning. For some reason I can't keep steady. Although I didn't feel so great, it seemed funny for some reason and I laughed. What's with this? Takeshi? Hang in there. Huh? Quit shaking me, it's making me feel ill. Sorry. Hey, I'm fine, don't worry, you. This is no time to be joking around. You're bleeding all over, Takeshi. We should go to the examination room. We'll take a look at you at once. We got TB, huh? Yeah. This isn't good. I gotta get a hold of myself. I tried to calm myself down. With you supporting me, I walked down the corridor. Just then, a door flew open in front of us. It was the examination room. Out of it flew Tsugumi. You, Takeshi, the kid. The kid's in bad shape. With eyes that showed the gravity of the situation, she yelled at us. The kid? What's wrong? He's in trouble. It'll be faster if you come in and look. No, Takeshi, you too? Tsugumi noticed the shape I was in and opened her eyes in shock. Takeshi too? What are you talking about? The kid was sleeping on the LMRI table. Alright. That's us for this episode. We finally got into IBF. It doesn't look like that's our magic bullet that's going to save us from the TB infection though, unfortunately. That seems to be spreading. I mean, if it's airborne and we've just been handling people that have got it, yeah, we're going to get sick. I mean, we're all been in close proximity for like 6 days, so it was inevitable, wasn't it? I'm surprised that they're surprised, but anyway, I guess we'll see what happens next. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.